Indiana fans, I know you're listening. And I know right now you might be a little bit down. You might be a little bit disappointed. You might even be a lot disappointed. And no one would blame you. But college basketball is interesting. It's different than any other sport out there. You could play like crap for the entire season, but tournament time gives you a completely fresh start. And tonight on the Hoosier Sound, Matt and I will dive in to the Big Ten tournament, recap Indiana's game against Purdue, and so much more on episode 185 of the Hoosier. On episode 185, where we are the Hoosier Sound and the official podcast of Indiana HQ, our mission and goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for IU sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern platforms. We're recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on March 9th, 2021, where I am your host, Nithin Krishnan. Here with me tonight is the aforementioned Matt Lukens. Matt, I know you watched that game on Saturday against Purdue.
Sadly.
We're not going to spend too much time talking about it, but what were your main takeaways from that game as IU's now dropped 9 straight to the Boilermakers and their 7th straight with Archie Miller as head coach?
Just team gap, coach gap. You know, there's a large gap between the programs. There you go. That's what I took from it. They're the 14th youngest team in America, and wiped the floor with us, made it look easy pretty much. Had a 9-point lead at halftime that I thought was very well deserved from them. They played pretty well. IU did not play well and went through yet again, a normal stretch of not scoring, which basically happens every single game. And then in the second half, they got blitzed. We came back, got some garbage time numbers in garbage time, but really wasn't that close at all. And it's sad that it's that way. The team that IU puts on the floor should be playing better than it is. It's much more talented than it has been playing. The players aren't playing up to the level that we expect them to. We've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. Yeah. I feel like it's been like the last 2 months we've been basically talking about it.
Maybe like a month. Maybe not 2, right? Maybe not like
Yeah, but and there's still decisions going on that makes no sense to me. How Trey Galloway gets 17 minutes and Anthony Little gets 3, I have absolutely no idea. Yes, Trey Galloway made a 3. It was nice to see him actually hit one. Maybe in the Big Ten tournament, you might see him hit a couple more. That would be very nice. But Anthony Little came in, took 2 shots, took 2 threes, missed them both, and then Archie didn't play him the rest of the game when he's supposedly your best 3-point shooter. Makes no sense to me. Race Thompson was barely in this game at all. Had some issues, obviously, during the game. It's just a bit of it's just sad. And then you look at Jaden Ivey, who went off for Purdue, and you go, that's somebody that would look really good in Cream and Crimson. And would have filled a need that we desperately needed. And obviously that was not the case and not meant to be. So it's just really sad. And the bench was just so good for Purdue. It's crazy. Like, how do we lose a game where Travion Williams has 6 points and was in foul trouble the whole time? I don't really get it.
Yeah. Zach Edey, that's why. I mean, it's 2 words for you right there. Edey was tremendous. He was tremendous, scoring 20 points. I was there at West Lafayette on Saturday afternoon, and I'll give Indiana credit. They're still locked in, they're still engaged, they're still trying. You can't say that they've checked out from anyone on the coaching staff or the roster, but it was really interesting, even with very, very limited fans in the building. When IU jumped out to a 7-0 lead on Saturday, no one expected them to keep it. No one in the building, no one on social media, no one in your grandparents' house or your cousin's house or your brother's or sister's house. No one expected IU to hold on to that lead. And within 10 game minutes, Purdue not only caught up, but they went ahead and they kept IU pretty much at an arm's length the rest of the way. Purdue didn't play great. I mean, we saw them play way better at Assembly Hall on Saturday. And Indiana, a team that desperately needed another quad one and win on their resume, completely fell short in that category. And speaking of falling short, Trayce Jackson-Davis, Matt, he's a guy who's averaging 19-9 on the season, but in his last 3 games, he's got 31 points and 16 rebounds combined. That's 10.3 per game, 5.3 rebounds per game. Do you see anything specific going wrong with Jackson-Davis? What is different now than the guy we saw all season, really up until that Michigan game where we went up against Hunter Dickinson?
Yeah, I mean, Trayce has always been a really efficient player. He was almost like Juwan Morgan 2.0, right? He goes in the game, he'll miss 2 or 3 shots, but he'll make 10, right? He'll be, at the end of the game, he'll be 10 of 13 for like 20-something points, and a couple of free throws made and missed. Now, you look at the box score, in the last couple of games, he's missed a lot of shots, and he's missed a lot of easy ones as well. It's been a problem with him basically all season this year, is missing bunny layups. And now I just feel like he's in his own head about it. Turnovers, too. It's really turned a bit messy. And normally IU's offense has been messy under Archie Miller. That's just how it works. They try to keep the ball, not turn it over a whole lot, but really what they run is just basic stuff. And right now, that basic stuff isn't working either. So it just looks terrible on the court. Yeah,
and like he's missing shots and he's barely taking them too. And I think that's a real cause for concern. He did go 3 for 12 against Michigan, ugly percentage, but at least he was in double figures in the attempts category. Last couple games, that hasn't been the case. I want all of you listening to this podcast to go back to your DVRs or find this game on YouTube or something. But here's what it comes down to. These Big Ten coaches know who Trayce Jackson-Davis is now. And there was a possession when Indiana was trailing on Saturday, 13-11. Okay, they had a chance to sort of settle in, get their footing in the game, and IU was on offense, and Jackson-Davis got the ball at the free throw line. Okay? No one's going to ask him to post up every possession. Got the ball at the free throw line, and he had a clean look at a mid-range free throw line jump shot. Didn't take it. Looked to pass. It wasn't there. Had another look at that free throw line jump shot. Didn't take it. Then the dribble handoff came to him. He got the ball back, had a look at a 20-footer, didn't take that either. And that possession ended with Al Durham taking a contested 2-point jump shot at the shot clock buzzer that missed woefully. On the other end of the court, Stefanovic hit a 3. Purdue went up 5, and that sort of created an arm's length that Indiana could really never get into the rest of the way. It, to me, Matt, comes down to, look, Trayce Jackson-Davis has been scouted every week, every day for the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
And Steve Peichel, who coaches Rutgers, he knows what Jackson-Davis is going to do too. So as you and I have talked about time and time again, if he can't use his right hand and if he can't take a jump shot, not only is he going to struggle the rest of this season, NBA scouts are going to look at him and go, we don't want you on our team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've already doing that. He's been falling down draft boards. I remember at the beginning of the year when we actually had some success, especially after the game at Florida State, where a lot of drafts, scouts were at, he was in the first round. Like, he was towards the first round, but as the season has gone on and his weaknesses have been exposed, like Nithin said, he is slowly falling down the pecking order where now he is a late second-round pick, sometimes not even on people's draft boards.
He's not on the boards right now.
And he's not on the boards right now. So it is incredible to me that it has gotten to this point, because if you had told me at the beginning of the year that Trayce wouldn't be on draft boards, I would have been very confused. I would have been like, what injury did he have that was substantial enough to push him down? But he seriously hurt his draft stock just from his play. And it's what Ant Wright on our last podcast said, was that if he needs to stay in school, come back and get a jump shot next year. Just a jumper. He doesn't have to use his right hand. He just has to just be confident enough in hitting a free throw line jumper. If he can come back and do that next year, his draft stock will increase exponentially. However, that's not the case right now, and teams have figured that out, which is a huge problem that we totally could have seen coming. But for whatever reason, this coaching staff on offense has no backup plan, and it's infuriating.
Yeah, it is. And infuriating is a word I think a lot of IU fans are using right now. But as I said in the intro, college basketball is different. It does allow you to get a second chance in conference tournament play. And that's what Indiana has coming up for them starting Thursday night at Lucas Oil Stadium. That's right, the house that Peyton Manning built. It's not Bankers Life. That's where the women's tournament's being held, Lucas Oil Stadium. That's where the Hoosiers will take on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights for the third time this season in the Big Ten tournament. The Scarlet Knights are 2-0 against the Hoosiers. But if you go and look at the KenPom projector, Rutgers is supposed to win this game by a single point. 66-65 is the computer projection for this game on Thursday. It's a 7-10 matchup. The winner goes on to play Illinois on Friday. The Hoosiers and the Scarlet Knights will start at 6:30 Eastern. On Thursday, quick, real fast preview. Rutgers is on the bubble right now. They're currently a 9. But the Scarlet Knights, who are a 9 seed, have had some strange losses this season, especially on Monday, March 1st at Nebraska, where they lost 72-51 to the Cornhuskers. They're 74th rated offense of the country, 16th ranked defense. Their best players are Ron Harper Jr., Geo Baker, Jacob Young, Miles Johnson. Matt, as you look at this matchup for a third time this year, what do the Hoosiers have to do to finally break through against Rutgers? Because the first two matchups have been real ugly.
Yeah, they have been really ugly. Rutgers is a terrible matchup for us, and for multiple reasons. They play really good defense, which when you already don't play good offense is a recipe for disaster. And then also on offense, they're huge, and we struggle against teams that are big. Look at the last game. Zach Edey ate us alive. We don't have a lot of size, and Rutgers thrives inside. And they have some really tough guards. Again, we've seen that multiple times this year. What happens to our guards when we play against tough guards? They crumble. Look at the Texas game, right? Or the Ohio State game, or the Michigan game. Like any of these games. Like all the big games, basically, right? Or any of the last two Rutgers games. Wow. I really went deep for that analysis.
Yeah, wow.
But if we're going to play well, we're going to need to shoot the three-pointer well. We need to spread the floor so that we can expose a bit of their weaknesses on defense. And we're honestly going to need to get really lucky because, like I said, they are a really bad matchup for us. And they've already swept us this year. It's not often that a team beats you 3 times, but if there's any Indiana basketball team that could lose 3 times to Rutgers, it is this basketball team, which is sad because I would really like us to try to make the season a little bit more interesting by winning a game or 2 in the Big Ten tournament. But I don't think that's going to be the case, Nithin.
I'm going to take the other side of this. I think Indiana's going to get a third look at this team, and they're going to find out these little niches, these little nuances, these little subtleties that are going to help the Hoosiers find a way to win this game. I would have been with you the whole way until Rutgers lost to Nebraska by 20 points. And that was a game where I stepped back. And by the way, Nebraska wasn't even at full strength. That morning, their best player, Teddy Allen, left the program. And they were shorthanded. And Rutgers still got clobbered by these guys. And I do look at this and I go, it's your third time. Maybe Indiana will get a little bit lucky. Maybe Armand Franklin returns. We kind of buried the lead, to be honest with you. If Franklin comes back, that would be a huge boost to Indiana's backcourt because, yes, obviously guard play is going to be massive here. Geo Baker scored 19.5 points per game in the 2 matchups so far this year. But I think this weekend, I guess at least Thursday, will offer this Indiana team the opportunity for a reset button. You're playing at Lucas Oil Stadium. You're playing in front of 8,000 fans, almost the vast majority of which will be Indiana fans in that building. If you can get to the foul line, which is something that Indiana does well, if you can get to the foul line, Rutgers doesn't foul too much, but if you can get to the free throw stripe, if you can hit some of those there, if you can make Rutgers shoot threes too, you've got an avenue to win here. These guys aren't Michigan. These guys aren't Illinois or Iowa. They're Rutgers. They're on the bubble. All the pressure in an Indiana-Rutgers game, as crazy as it sounds, is going to be on Rutgers to win this. They're currently in the tournament, but a loss to Indiana will keep them in the discussion. The selection committee might take them out. depending on some other results and depending on some bid stealers perhaps. So I think IU's going to have an opportunity here to pull off a victory. And again, Indiana's not going to go into this game as a 10-point underdog or whatever. It's not like they're facing Purdue on the road. It's not like they're facing Michigan like they did a week and a half ago. I think this Indiana team's going to have a chance here. So, Matt, let me ask you this. As you look at this game Thursday, 6:30 Eastern, Big Ten Network, 7-10 matchup in the conference tournament, can Indiana get a bit of a run going in the Big Ten tournament? How do you think they're going to do against Rutgers? Who wins and by how much?
I don't think so. I think if you think they're going to win, I would like some of whatever you are having, sir. Because we're 0-2 against this team. They're already a bad matchup. We have lost multiple times in the first round of the tournament to Rutgers in the past couple of years. So this is not something new. We seem to always play Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament and lose in the first round. I remember I was at the game in Madison Square Garden, and I was like, wow, I love a free paid vacation to New York. Just win one more game so I can go and see Madison Square Garden a second time. And no, they anyways. So
yeah, we need a vomit sound effect.
Yeah, they didn't happen, and Freddie McSwain was our best playing player that game. So, sadly, I don't think we're going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think IU will get out to an early lead, fired up by having some of the Hoosier faithful, also fired up because they're going to hear their coach get booed for the first time this year. And so I'm assuming we're going to lose 67-62 to Rutgers in Lucas Oil. It'll be a close game. Jacob Young is going to have some really good defensive plays down the stretch that are going to infuriate me to no end. And we'll be sitting here talking about it next week on the Hoosier Sound.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm going to take Indiana to win this game. I think the Hoosiers are going to break their slump that they've got going on here. 5 straight losses. Not great, Bob. 5 straight losses, but sort of a change of scenery. It's not an assembly hall game, but it's not a true road game. This Lucas Oil Stadium is a strange venue to hold a college basketball game, but that's exactly what's happening. I think they're going to feed off the fan support a little bit. And when you put all that together, I think Indiana's going to win. And by the way, bonus tip for those of you listening, take the under. Whatever it is, just take the under. I think it's going to be a disgusting basketball game, but I think Indiana's going to win 57-54 in the Thursday match of the Big Ten tournament, and that will push the Hoosiers on to Friday. You think
Vegas would learn by now that people don't shoot well in domes, right? Like they think you think they would like factor that into the line by now, but
man, I don't know about that necessarily. I just know this matchup in particular is a Rutgers team that scored 51 against Nebraska, scored 48 on the road against Michigan State a while ago. They obviously are good enough to win, but this is a game I would be surprised if either team scored 60, especially with their familiarity, style of play involved. That's how I see this game going on Thursday. But it's time for Who Won the Week in IU Sports this past weekend. Like I've said before, this is basically just an Indiana women's basketball update because it's been a historic season and it's continuing. The Hoosiers are still on a roll. They have a season-long winning streak going. They won 74-59 against Purdue on Saturday in a game that happened concurrently with the men's game. The Hoosiers defended home court at Assembly Hall and finished 16-2 in Big Ten play. That's a school record, 16 wins in conference play. They're 18-4 on the season. Right now, the projections have them as a 3 seed in March Madness. Mackenzie Holmes had 26 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks against Purdue, and she continues her stellar season. It's the 5th straight win against the Boilermakers, which is the longest streak in school history. AP ranked IU number 9 in their last poll. That is also a school record. The Hoosiers are top 10. And like I said, they moved up to the 9 spot now. IU now faces the Michigan State, Penn State winner on Thursday at the same time, 6:30 Eastern on Fox Sports 2. And then the Hoosiers will play Friday if they win at 4:30 or so against Rutgers. Fun fact, Indiana and Rutgers have not played this season. They had a game scheduled earlier this year. They got postponed and pushed back because of COVID-19 issues, and they never made it up. So that's where the Indiana women's basketball team is right now. An exceptional regular season for this team, and now they head into conference tournament and NCAA tournament play. A friendly reminder, if you would like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay up to date with all of our information by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ or at the Hoosier Sound. All right, Matt, let's zoom out a little bit. The Big Ten tournament is finally upon us. The best conference in college basketball will play the best conference tournament in college basketball starting on Wednesday night. As you look at this bracket, Matt, let's focus on the Indiana path first. Do you like the side of the bracket, the half of the bracket that they're on? If they do beat Rutgers, it looks like the path Friday, Saturday will be the Hoosiers taking on Illinois Friday, Iowa Saturday. What are your thoughts in general on Indiana's section of this Big Ten tournament bracket?
Yeah, it honestly looks a bit tough. I'm not going to lie. Well, actually, any side of the bracket you are on looks tough. Let's be honest. It's the Big Ten. It's the best conference in basketball. But to play starting with Rutgers, not going to be fun. And then go into the possible second game just looks terrible, right, Nithin? It's just it's just not a good look for an IU program.
No, it's not great, especially when you consider that second matchup is against the Illini. Now, I'll say this, right? The Hoosiers did play Illinois close in both games this year. It's a matchup where the Hoosiers in Champaign played about 38 good minutes, and then against Illinois and Bloomington, they played about 38 good minutes there too. But of course, that game went into overtime. Look, I know Illinois is playing some really good basketball, but if you ask me, Matt, the teams I wanted Indiana to avoid were Michigan, Wisconsin, Purdue, Ohio State. All those teams are on the other side. Indiana won't face them until Sunday. Or I guess Saturday if Iowa beats Wisconsin or Wisconsin beats Iowa. But am I crazy? I kind of like how this is setting up. You're nodding your head. Tell me why.
Yeah, nodding your head because you're crazy. When we played Illinois, they weren't playing up to the level they are currently playing. Remember, this is an Illinois team that just beat that Michigan team that we talked about. They are playing their best basketball of the season down the stretch, which, as all good teams do, they ramp up. Michigan State's doing that right now. Illinois is getting there. Purdue is getting there as well. Ohio State, not so much. However, you look at Illinois, that's a team I don't want to face. I know that the two matchups were close. Again, I said that earlier, but I don't think it'll be that close this time. And I feel like Illinois almost let it be close both times. Like, Illinois was like playing with their food. Like, they totally could just take us by the neck and beat us by 30. But each time they were like, I feel like they're like trying new things in the first half. Like, oh, we have a 2-point lead at halftime. That's fine. We'll go in. We're like, we have Illinois by 2. And then somewhere like 6 minutes left in the game, Iowa's like, okay, it's Dame time or Io time. And he just goes up and we lose by 12. We're like, what happened? Or Trent Frazier goes on his own like 11-0 run. And we're like, what happened? We were winning. We were close. That's the kind of team Illinois is. And that's why, to me, they're my favorites out of all the teams that aren't Baylor and Gonzaga to win the tournament. I will make a bracket where Illinois wins the national championship this year because they have that team. We don't want to play them. And when I look at the bracket for the first game, I'm glad we avoided Wisconsin. I'm glad we avoided Michigan State. I would have liked Maryland. I mean, it goes without, I wouldn't want to play Ohio State either. But I'm glad we've avoided Maryland. I think the Rutgers draw is nice. Like, that's whatever. But it really hurts looking at that Michigan State loss with the fact that we could have played Maryland in the first round of the tournament with one extra win. And if we win that game, we have a chance to play Michigan. If we play them close, we might lose, but it's still a really good tournament resume builder there that could get us in the tournament. And it's like one of the Michigan State games is all we had to win. One of them.
Yeah, I know. You can play the what-if game all night with this Indiana basketball team. There were so many games where you look back and go, if they did this, if they did that, this would have happened. But I don't know. I mean, look, by no means am I sitting here and saying Indiana's going to beat Illinois. I just look at this and go, hey, you don't have to worry about Michigan on Friday because there's no chance. There's no chance Indiana's beating them. There's no chance Indiana's coming within 5 or 6 points of Michigan. I don't care what Michigan State did to them over the weekend. There's no chance. I don't want to see anything of Purdue on Friday. Had Iowa lost to Wisconsin, Purdue would have been bumped up to a 3 seed, but that doesn't matter at this point anymore. Ohio State's on the other side of the bracket too. I think of all the scenarios that could have faced Indiana, this one's pretty favorable. But when you look at all of this, Matt, you said Indiana's not going to win any games against Rutgers. You're not any games in the conference tournament. I look at this and I think Indiana's going to win one. We asked our followers over at the Hoosier Sound, and that was our Twitter poll this week. We said, hey, look, how many games do you think this team's going to win in the conference tournament? Matt, what do you think the majority of people said as far as Indiana's number of wins in this conference tournament?
Well, I'm going to be a bit of a Grinch, and since I voted in that said poll, I already know the results, which was most people thought 0. As they were with me.
And not only did most people think 0, Matt, 66% of the 300 votes that have come into that Hoosier Sound poll say the Indiana Hoosiers aren't even going to beat Rutgers on Thursday. 17% of you said they're going to take one game, that's how I feel. All right, I'm part of the 17%. 9% of you think the Hoosiers will win 2. 8% Sunday they're going to win 3 or 4. So hey, look, the fun starts on Thursday for Indiana. Starts on Wednesday night for the overall Big Ten tournament. Matt, fun question for you, just as you look at the bracket, the Big Ten tournament bracket, big picture. Who do you think your 4 semifinalists are? Who makes it to Saturday? Do you think it's going to be chalk 1, 2, 3, 4? Who do you think is on upset alert? How do you see sort of the tournament play out, at least as far as who makes it to Saturday?
I'm going to do something a little strange here. I think Michigan gets Indiana here. So, which is they have the double bye and they show up and they're the best team in the Big Ten and they end up playing one of the hottest teams in the league who upsets them. Normally when it's Indiana, that's the University of Michigan basketball. But for Michigan, it's going to be Michigan State. Michigan State's been playing much better. They'll get warmed up against a lukewarm Maryland team that I'm not very high on. And then they'll go and play their rivals, Michigan, in Lucas Oil. They'll be fired up. They're going to win that game. So my 4 teams are Michigan State. I think Ohio State ends up beating Purdue. They have to win a game eventually, Ohio State. And when they do, they'll get their mojo back and be playing well. So Michigan State, Ohio State, Illinois, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin beats Iowa. I have no faith in that Iowa team. And look at Illinois to win the whole tournament.
Here we go. Illinois goes all the way. I'm going to be pretty different than you on this, Matt. Look, I love Michigan. I love the way they play. I don't care that they lost to Michigan State, over the weekend. I think they're going to make it to Saturday. I think Purdue's going to trip up Ohio State. I think this Purdue team is vastly underrated. They're a pretty seal-tight basketball team, and if Purdue can hit a few more shots than they did on Saturday, I think they're going to be a real pain in the butt for the Buckeyes on Thursday. And of course, there is the odd chance that Ohio State loses on Thursday because they are the 5 seed, and whether or not they play Northwestern in Minnesota, the Buckeyes could trip up on Thursday. Not saying it's likely because it's not, but anything can happen there. And as far as the bottom half of the bracket's concerned, I look at Illinois making it, and I have Iowa. I think they're playing some really good basketball right now. That game against Wisconsin back on Sunday was really good, in case those of you listening watched it earlier over the weekend. And then I've got Michigan winning it all. I know it's very chalky, but I actually have the top 4 seeds making it to Saturday. And then the number 1 seed Michigan Wolverines taking down do they get like a Lucas Oil Stadium banner up in the rafters at the Colts home stadium, like the 1 year the Big Ten tournament's held in the stadium. You guys won it.
Maybe. I don't know. That would be interesting to have a Michigan banner up there. And I feel like they would have to cover it every time Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship in Lucas Oil and football. So,
yeah, I mean, before all of you unsubscribe. And this is all a joke. There's no way they're going to put a Michigan banner at Lucas Oil Stadium. And yeah, final question as far as the Big Ten tournament's concerned is Matt, like, how interested are you in this tournament being played at the Colt Stadium? There are going to be 8,000 fans there. There's obviously going to be some sort of sentimental connection to it because this was the tournament last year where everything ended on that Thursday morning in Indiana. Although they beat Nebraska, they didn't get a chance to really get into the meat of the tournament. Just on a high level, what are your thoughts as this conference tournament will get underway on Wednesday?
Well, one, it would be nice to have a conference tournament for the first time in almost 2 years. So that'll be nice. And two, I think this entire tournament is a ploy from the Big Ten to finally end the championship drought by giving teams extra practice in Lucas Oil. So when we eventually have two teams in the Final Four, one of them has to have enough practice to end up having the upper hand, having a good shooting game on the night of the national championship. And that's why you'll see your Illinois Illini crowned national champions come, I don't know, the end of early April something.
Yeah, something like that.
There you go. There's my hot take on that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fans aspect of it. And like you said, what's IU fans' reaction going to be when Archie Miller is introduced at 6:28 p.m. on Thursday night? I mean, I don't know if someone out there, someone out there is going to live stream those pregame introductions. Something I'm curious to see.
They'll be warm and cordial.
Yeah, well, and then speaking of, IU will respond well. I think Hoosier basketball fans are passionate to say the least, and those that will get into Lucas Oil Stadium, I think will really try to push this IU team as much as possible. It was cool seeing IU fans support the Hoosiers football team in the bowl game in January, and now you're going to see kind of the basketball equivalent of that. So I'm fired up. This is my favorite college basketball week of the year because look, I know March Madness is fun, but that's really concentrated into 4 days. You tell me ACC tournament started earlier today. You're getting 6 straight days of high level college basketball, basically noon to midnight. And this is as good as it gets going into March Madness a week or so from now. So Matt, it's time for the social media shout out. The Big Ten announced a bunch of awards today on the men's and women's side. A bunch of Hoosiers got recognized. Run us through what you saw as far as the Hoosiers making the news there.
Yeah, so a bunch of people got recognized. As Nithin said, Trace Jackson Davis for the men got the most recognition, 13 AP All-American. Yeah, he's been dropping down draft boards, but the AP voters still recognize how good of a basketball player he is. He was first team Big Ten media. Wow, I'm having a hard time. And second team Big Ten coaches. The women's Big Ten, Grace Berger and Mackenzie Holmes were the first team for the Big Ten. Pat Berg was second. Berger was second as the second time on the first team for Berger. And then Holmes was first team all defense. And then this was Pat Berg's third all Big Ten selection total. So the women getting it done. The men is a one-man show, like we thought. I'm surprised that Armand was an honorable mention somewhere on there. But nonetheless, congratulations to all of them for winning individual awards.
Yeah, that's a good summary of what happened. Might have to have you do some tongue twisters at the start of each podcast starting next week. But yeah, Trace Jackson Davis gets the recognition there. A bunch of women's basketball players got first and second team nods too. So great to see that as far as the Big Ten regular season awards there. Let's switch over to the gridiron, Matt. And there was some big news that came down on Monday morning. Scott Dolson, Indiana's athletic director, made his first real major move as the head of IU sports. He gave Tom Allen a big pay raise. Allen's salary bumped up from $3.9 million to $4.9 million per year. The contract length stayed the same going through 2027. And of course, every bowl game Indiana makes, Allen gets another year added to the back end of that. It's the 6th highest coach's salary now in the Big Ten. the largest contract that the athletics department has given out in school history, just based on average annual value. Dolson said Tom Allen has proven himself to not only be the right person for our student athletes in our program, but one of the best football coaches in the country. Matt, what are your general thoughts on this pay raise? It's obviously deserved. What do you think this means overall for the future of Indiana football?
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Scott Dolson on getting handed a what is this called? A cupcake, an easy home run, a hanging slider, as one might say. There's really no way he could have done this wrong. Like, Tom Allen wants to stay with the Hoosiers. He obviously deserved a raise after what they were paying him. And giving somebody like him the highest contract of all time makes a lot of sense and means a lot to the university as well, as a man of his not only faith, but also just values, is in charge of the football program. So good for him, and good for the program. As far as the future of the program goes, it makes it more stable. Obviously, recruits aren't going to be worried about him picking up and going to, I don't know, people are saying Mississippi State, Ole Miss, talking about his connections, going back to Florida, doing some head coaching contract somewhere else. We don't have to worry about that. Tom Allen is getting the bag for staying in a state in which he coached for a long time. And so good for Tom Allen, and really good for the future of the program.
Yeah, what's exciting to me, or at least what stands out to me, is that, here, Tom Allen in Dreamland would be the head coach for this program for the next 30 years, right? I mean, that's kind of how we look at it. In a perfect world, he'd be here until 2040. He'd be here until 2041 or 2051 or whatever. But that's unrealistic, okay? That doesn't happen. And so the way I look at it, this pay raise gives incentive to coaches all around America whenever the position does become vacant, that, hey, if you do come to Indiana, a program that has long been known as a cheap program when it comes to the football side of things, if you succeed, the competitive pay, the fair pay will follow. And I don't know who the hot coaches will be in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or whenever Tom Allen decides to retire or leave or whatever.
25 years.
But whoever comes into Bloomington will come in with the understanding that, hey, Scott Dolson, the athletic director, the guy in charge, if you come in and if you win 8-9 games in a season, if you get ranked in the top 10, and if you win a bunch of Big Ten games, and if you lose close to Ohio State, and if you do all this sort of stuff, if you're in the CFB playoff discussion, the pay raises will follow. The bumps will follow. And I think in the big picture, that's a very underreported, underrated side of this. Obviously, it's great to see Tom Allen get a deserved $4.9 million salary in the years to come. But that, to me, is sort of a long-term benefit that Indiana will see from this. And Scott Dolson knows exactly what he's doing. He's the boss of IU sports right now. He knows what he's doing when he's giving Tom Allen this much deserved reward. So, Matt, as we wind down on this Tuesday night here, we're heading to conference tournament play. The NCAA tournament is on deck as well. Indiana football made the news with this Tom Allen contract. What are your final thoughts here as we finish up episode 185?
Yeah, I mean, Tom Allen contract is great. I, was dreading this podcast for a bit this weekend, and finally some really good news came out. So really happy that we got to talk about that. But no, seriously, I can't overstate this enough, how important it is that Tom Allen got the bag, right, and is secured and put in this position, because stability is the best thing that you can possibly have for a football program, and stability starts with your head coach. So really is great for the program. Again, you saw him all giddy and happy running into practice today. Indiana football tweeted that out. So good for him. I'm sure he'll have a beautiful house somewhere in Bloomington, just chilling. because he should really look into the real estate market right now. There's really good interest rates. My parents have been talking about that. But anyways, that's not for the sports podcast.
Wow, man! We gave out betting tips tonight.
Yeah,
we're giving out interest rate
that's
advice.
That's why you listen to the Hoosier Sound, man. We talk about everything on this podcast, not just sports. But no, really great. Now, I would like to see this sizable contract be paid out to somebody when we look for a men's basketball coach again, because if we were to fire Archie, right, in this hypothetical situation in which it happens, the football coach is getting paid $5 million a year. The basketball program is supposed to be the program. Don't be afraid to pay a top 5 salary to a basketball coach if he's worthy of it for the athletic program. Yes, you will take a loss in the near future. That is fine. But having a stable head of the basketball program in Indiana will pay dividends in 5 to 10 years compared to a stable of coach or a non-stable coach would in that position. So that would be my pitch to Scott Dolson on that. We'll see how the Big Ten tournament goes. Obviously, we could end up winning the damn thing, and then all of a sudden, everybody is Team Archie again, and we're in the tournament, and everybody's feeling great. Will that happen? No. And like I said before, Nithin, I know I've gone on a little bit of a rant now. You can chime in whenever, but
the floor is yours.
I think we're going to win absolutely 0 games. But if Nithin is right and we beat Rutgers, I wouldn't be surprised to see us in the darn championship game with just the way how weird this team has been all year. So if we win against Rutgers, I'm going to be one of the happiest men on earth. Will we? I don't think so, Nithin. So now the floor is yours after I have just mocked it all up over here.
No, it's all good. My favorite part there is when you use the little pay dividends reference. You're really tying in the financial aspects of things into this episode. Look, I mean, you kind of led me into it perfectly. I said this, I think 6 or 8 weeks ago. I said this Indiana team is physical enough and is skilled enough to beat any team in the conference. They can do it. I mean, nothing would surprise me with this team, and that includes losing by 20 to Rutgers on Thursday. But if Armaan Franklin comes back, and it's an if at this point, and IU finds a way to get to Friday, who knows? I'm not saying Indiana's going to beat Illinois. All I'm saying is, on the other side of the bracket, you got Michigan, you got Purdue, you got Ohio State, teams that I think you have no shot of beating. I think Illinois, you got a shot. And, of course, that would first require you to take down the Scarlet Knights on Thursday night at 6:30. So I know, as angry and frustrated as Hoosier fans are, all of you are going to be tuning into Big Ten Network for that first round matchup. But that about wraps it up for our 185th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience. You are all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, tell a friend, leave us a review, share our links. Your support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourselves. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.